Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's live discussion from Bhagavad Gita as it is. We are discussing the chapter Devotional Service, which is chapter number 12 in Bhagavad Gita as it is. And we have covered up to the verses 12 so far. So let us begin today's session. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langate kripatamam vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhu Shri Chaitaneshwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Verse 13 and 14. Adveshta sarva bhutanam maitrah karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankara samasukha dukha kshami. This was verse number 13 and number 14. They've been put together in the Bhagavad Gita as it is. Santushtah satatam yogi yadatma dridhanishchayah mayyarpita mano buddhiryo madbhakta sa me priyah. Translation. One who is not envious but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me, such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. Verse 16. Yasman no dvijate loko lokano dvijate cha yah harsha marsha bhayodvegay mukto yah sa cha me priyah. He for whom one is not put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety is very dear to me. Verse 16. Anapekshah shuchir daksha udasino gatavyatha sarvarambha parityagi yo madbhaktah sa me priyah. Yona, verse 17. Yona rishya. No, sorry, the translation of verse 16. My devotee who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and is not striving for some result, is very dear to me. Verse 17. Yona rishyati na dveshti na shochati na kankshati shubha shubha parityagi bhaktimans yah sa me priyah. One who neither rejoices nor grieves, who neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things, such a devotee is very dear to me. Verse 18 and 19, they are together again. Samah shatrau cha mitre cha tatha mana pamanayoh shitoshna sukha dukkheshu samah sangha vivarjitah tulya nindastu dastuti mauni santushto yena kenachit aniketah sthiramatir bhaktir Maname priyo naraha. This was verse 19 and previous one was 18. Translation. One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equipoised in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge, and who is engaged in devotional service, such a person is very dear to me. Finally, verse 20, which is the last verse of this chapter. Ye tu dharma mrita midam yathoktam paryupasate shraddha namata parma bhaktaste tiva me priyah. Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very dear to me. So yesterday, up to the verse 12, Krishna was telling us the different ways or choices or options we can take how to attain Krishna, following the regulative principles, or completely surrendering our mind into Krishna, or trying to understand the knowledge in the scriptures. So various paths were told. And of course, serving is the best, the direct devotional service, which is now in verses 13, Krishna is at 13 and 14, Krishna is actually giving us a checklist of a pure devotee. So what does pure devotee's qualities look like? So okay, so some non-devotees, they can also have some good qualities, but thing is, those qualities are not based on devotional service. Their foundation is not that, so they are not sustainable. When the circumstances change, their qualities also change. So that is the only difference between a devotee and non-devotee. A devotee, once they start to understand the scriptural knowledge, what Krishna wants from us, what's the qualities of a good devotee, they try their best to stick to those qualities. And let's see what are the checklist of a pure devotee Krishna is giving us. Krishna is saying a pure devotee is not envious. He is a kind friend to everyone, who doesn't think himself to be the proprietor or owner of anything and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress. A pure devotee is tolerant, is always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination. His mind and intelligence are fixed in the Lord. Krishna says, such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. In Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, 14th chapter, verse 8, it is said, Tatte nukampam susamikshamano bhunjana evatma kritam vipakam. Whenever a devotee is in distress or has fallen into difficulty, he thinks that it is the Lord's mercy upon him. He thinks, thanks to my past misdeeds, that I should suffer far. Now this sounds very strange, isn't it, to everyone's ears? So it is by the supreme mercy of the Supreme Lord that I'm not getting all the punishment I'm due. I'm just getting a little by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So once you take the devotional service, you realize that God is only giving you the token of the punishment you deserve for your past misdeeds from, God knows, could be any life or maybe this life. So he knows that God has been very kind to him and he's just getting a tiny fraction of that punishment. So that devotee can stay calm and quiet, patient, despite many distressful situations in their life as they become more and more fixed in the devotional service. And a devotee is never disturbed in any circumstances. He's never envious of anyone. Neither he becomes his enemy's enemy. He understands that if anybody is behaving like enemy to him in this life, it's because their own past misdeeds from past lives. And a devotee is always kind to everyone, and devotee might seem like a nirmam as well. Nirmama means that devotee is not being attached to anything too much, is not paying too much attached to even attention to their even pains and problems, could be of the body problems or any problems, and they don't identify themselves as their own body. Okay, when it hurts, the body hurts, the pain is there and you do feel it, but you understand that it is only temporary, it is not a permanent thing. And because you realize that you are the soul, not this body. So they don't endeavor too much for anything, to achieve anything with a lot of difficulty. They're joyful, they just accept what comes to them with just the right amount of endeavor. And they understand that Lord is the master of everything in the world and nobody else can disturb them. So all these things help a devotee to fix their mind and intelligence in the devotional service of Krishna by following the devotional service the regulative principles in the devotional service. So such a devotee is very dear to Lord. Lord says in verse 15, we see that Krishna is telling us that one who is not put into for whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anyone. So a pure devotee is also one who will not try to put anybody in any kind of difficulty and doesn't get disturbed by anyone, and he stays equipoised both in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, and all the dualities of life. A pure devotee will see that everyone, including himself or herself, we all living entities are like puppets in the hands of three modes of nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Because these three modes of nature, they act on us since our birth, throughout our lives. In the morning it is mode of goodness, during the daytime it's mode of passion, and at night time it's mode of ignorance. So a devotee will try not to get disturbed. Okay, initially one will feel a little bit disturbance if something has been said or done by somebody else to them, but they will soon remember the teachings of Lord. And as you go on repeating these teachings to yourself, and as you go on becoming more and more fixed in your devotional service, the problems will bother you, but the botheration will be only for a short duration. They will not disturb you for a long time. So a devotee, Prabhupada says, who is transcendental or who is above all these disturbance of the material world is very dear to Krishna. A person who can see the arrangement of the modes of nature and who is not easily disturbed by these, who understands this is all temporary, it is all due to my body, because my Atma is in the body platform, so I am going to feel the suffering, but it is only temporary. And that such a person is also very dear to the Lord. In verse 16, Bhagavan said that my devotee is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and not striving for some results, is very dear to me. So again, like we have read previously as well in the purpose explained by Prabhupada, that a devotee is not going to over-endeavor to achieve anything in life. What is going to come with a certain amount of endeavor in life, a devotee will accept. They are not going to work, say, 20 or 21 hours in a day trying to achieve something which they know that it is not achievable for them, or which is maybe not meant for them in this life. A devotee will never forget his devotional duties towards the Lord, taking the bath, serving the Lord, offering bhoga to the Lord, taking care of the swadhyaya as well, doing some self-study as well of the scriptures. And a devotee will try to do everything which is favorable for the devotional service, and will take off those activities from his life or her life which are not favorable for the devotional service. So a devotee is not too much attached to the illusions or the temporary happiness in this life. They have understood what is the purpose of this birth. Verse 17, Krishna says that one who neither rejoices nor grieves, who neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things, such a devotee is very dear to me. Krishna says that a devotee who is almost equipoised in all the situations in life is very dear to Lord. In other words, that in performing the devotional service, a devotee is not going to let these dualities of life affect him or her. He or she will stay steady in their devotional service. Such a devotee of Krishna is very dear to Krishna. So since verse 13 we have been reading, what are the qualities which are very dear to Krishna in a devotee? Verses 18 and 19 tell us that one who is equal friends to friends and enemies, who is, in other words, equipoised in honor, dishonor, in heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, and who is free from contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge, and who is engaged in devotional service, such a person is very dear to me. So a good devotee is free from all kinds of bad association, because as we know, good and bad association affects us. It affects our mind. Our mind quickly takes on such association, and a good devotee is not bothered if he's praised or not praised. All the dualities of life which have been just told, when a person takes on to the devotional service, and when he or she starts to understand the path of bhakti, and then when they start to understand these teachings in Bhagavad Gita, and they start to understand that all these things are meant to bring me closer to Krishna. Because remember, when we are in pain, when we are in distress, we remember God more than compared to when we are in happiness or in all kinds of joyful situation. Then it's not very easy to remember the Lord. So a good devotee understands that what qualities are dear to Krishna, he or she will try to live by those qualities, imbibe those qualities, and try to become more fixed in their determination to serve Krishna. In their mind, they'll become more fixed, and they will keep the knowledge, this knowledge about the devotional service, especially this knowledge given in these chapters, from chapters 7 onwards, 7 to 12. It's all about Krishna, and Krishna is actually telling us that what is dear to him and what is not dear to him in performing of the devotional service. Harav abhaktasya kuto mahad guna. One who is not a devotee has not good qualification. This is said in the scriptures. So when we take on to the devotional service, when we become Krishna conscious, we can see Krishna everywhere around us, in every living and non-living entity, and when we can understand the arrangement of the species, that why we are in the human species, there's a reason for it, then we are able to take on devotional service very easily. Finally, the last verse of this chapter, verse 20, Krishna says, those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very dear to me. So in the second verse of this chapter through this last verse, verse 20, from Maya Aveshya Mamo Ye Mam, fixing the mind unto me, through Ye Tu Dharmamritam Idam, this religion of eternal engagement, the Supreme Lord has explained the process of the transcendental devotional service for approaching Him. So how we can approach the Supreme Lord? It's only through the devotional service. Lord has explained to us very clearly. So now it's up to us, that do we want to take all these teachings and try to remember them, hear more about them, and do the devotional service accordingly, or we just want to take it as a nice story, okay, read it and put it away. It's all up to us. So God has given the tools to us, and how we're going to apply them to us in our life, is all up to us. We can only ask for the mercy of Krishna, because without the mercy of Krishna, nothing happens. You don't even start the devotional service in life until you get the mercy of the Lord and the association of the devotees, the blessings of the devotees. So these are the arrangements provided to us in this life to take on the path of bhakti. So the more and more we will have the desire to engage in the devotional service of the Lord, Krishna will provide the means to us, Krishna will show us the path, and we will see that we just take one step toward Krishna and Krishna is taking 10 steps towards us. Miracles start happening in the form of association, or in the form of something we hear about Lord, or some books we get, or some services we are able to get. So we won't be worrying too much about keeping this material situation of our life. Even we will be doing what is our duty, and we will see that Krishna is going to make it easier for us to perform the devotional service if we want to do it. Lord will provide. So thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 12th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of devotional service. So just to give a quick recap, in this chapter 12, verses 1 to 7, we have covered the worship of the personal form of the Lord. The personal form with the flute in hand, peacock feather in his head, and God standing in a Tribhanga form. The body bent at three places in the body, as you know: waist, shoulders, and knees. And verses 8 to 12, it was all about the progressive stages of bhakti. Bhagwan was giving us the choice in verses 8 to 12. If you can't do the devotion service to me like this, then do this. If you can't do this, do this. So it is all told in verses 8 to 12. Follow the rules and regulations, or fix your mind on me, or learn about me, God says. But the best, God says, is directly serve me. And in verses 13 to 20, God has given us the qualities which are very dear to Lord. And we'll begin chapter 13 next time. So from chapter 13 to the end of the Bhagavad Gita, which is chapter 18, it's all about the material prison house, that is this world. So it's going to be very interesting to know what God is going to tell us about this material prison house. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you soon. Hari Om Tat Sat, Hare Krishna.